This is a very dangerous storm. The infrastructure's gonna break.
It's your brother. He's been found dead.
He was found deceased on the boat, but I still don't understand what happened to him.
It sounded an alarm that there are people within the community that could do this.
Tell me how I died.
I've been the Ward Harbor Master for 30 years. Harbor Master is law and order, or enforcement, of all the laws and ordinances that pertain to the waterfront. The day after the storm, I was doing a shoreline patrol. This is where I noticed a yellow and white sailboat that had not been there before. Called down into the cabin to see if anybody was there and got no response. Looked inside, and the interior of the boat was a mess. All of the furnishings of the interior of the boat, cushions, blankets, pillows, were all piled up on the floor, as well as boxes and cans and bottles, things like that. We have to basically take control of the boat and make it safe. So I decided to remove it to a different part of the cove, out of the way. As the week progressed, I went back to make sure that the boat was still secure. And so I approached the boat from about 100 feet away. I could smell something very amiss with the boat. I got on board. It was very hot inside the boat. It was probably 100 degrees inside the boat. It was a very heavy insect activity. And I discovered a body. It was a shock.
I was the detective sergeant in charge of detectives. With no ventilation, the decomposition was definitely sped up drastically. So the identity of the deceased was still unknown due to the state of decomposition.
The first thing that strikes me is the poor condition of the body. It's the peak of humid summer here. And it was an aquatic environment, it's the water, so there's definitely humidity at play. I didn't see any big injury right off the bat on the head or neck, but I need to look further. Once we get the dental records, he is quickly identified as Mr. Fernando Silva. There's a very important bone called the hyoid bone at the base of your tongue, underneath your chin. It was definitely irregular and fractured. Why is the broken hyoid bone so significant? It's a marker for a lot of pressure put on the neck or strangulation. But by initial overview, manner of death is undetermined.
We interviewed Freddie's family and friends to find out from his inner circle exactly what Mr. Silva was about.
He said, this is what I want to do as a retired person. But because he was so friendly, mostly every morning, he would get up and go to the local convenience store, get his cigarettes, get his cup of coffee, and sit and play a game of Keno.
Keno is one of those games that, depending on your luck, you can win up to a couple of $1,000s. Freddie struck it rich, from his perspective, certainly, when he ended up winning $400 in Keno.
He won more than anybody I ever knew.
We were able to see that the ribs were fractured, not just in one place, but along each rib. That's quite consistent with being beaten with an object. And then there's a white shirt in the neck area. A man doesn't generally wear a shirt that way. Also, the hyoid bone was confirmed to have a fracture. I could see that it was splintered. I'm thinking he was strangled with that shirt. So it's all sort of coming together. There's no way I can have all this happen to him accidentally. There's nothing else that it could be other than homicide.
One of the witnesses informed us that sometime in late July, early August, he had observed the boat tying up to a dock. He approached the boat and spoke to Fernando Silva and asked him why he was docking there. And Mr. Silva had stated that there was a subject by the name of Ducky Waterman who had given him permission to dock his boat there and had already paid Mr. Waterman for the slip. He also stated that on the early morning of August 1st, he had seen two gentlemen walking with a cooler and a gas can down to the Star Capella. And And the two gentlemen stated that they were there to help out Fernando Silva start the boat. He was also able to give us the fact that they were driving a maroon Dodge pickup truck. The next step in the investigation, we spoke to Ducky Waterman. We asked him about two people that were described to us. He said those two people had been at his place recently. He knew one is Troy Gundaway. We were able to locate the subject named Troy. We asked him who the second subject was. He stated that it was his friend, Richard Barabal. We discovered that Mr. Gundaway had spent over half his life incarcerated. And Mr. Barabal was involved in many domestic incidents, had a suspended license, and that he drove a maroon Dodge pickup truck. So at that point, we felt it necessary to do surveillance on the red truck with the hopes that Mr. Barabal would enter that said truck and drive on the state roadway. A couple hours later, he did exit the apartment with another subject, and he did proceed to drive away on a public roadway, where he subsequently pulled over about a couple hundred yards from his residence. We performed a pat down of him, in which I located a small switchblade knife in his right front pocket, and it appeared that there was dried blood on the inside frame of the knife. We placed him under arrest for operating on a suspended license, possession of the knife over 3 inches, and for possession of stolen motor vehicle registration plates. Richard Barabal acknowledged that he had heard Mr. Silva had won some money at Keno, and that maybe he'd be an easy target to rob.
So I went in there and I noticed that there was some near. So then I just said, I'm out of here, dude, and I left.
Richard stated that Troy had come back from the boat. He said that he didn't have his white T-shirt on and that he had some scratches on his face. We wanted to make sure that he was telling correct information. So we had sent some detectives over to meet with Mr. Gundaway and asked him to voluntarily come in and speak with us.
We both take a walk down to the dock. The plan is, do you think the guy's gonna be there?
I didn't think
No,
so.
you didn't think so?
That's what I was, nice and quiet, till
Yeah.
he came in and blew him out with his vest.
He's the one who choked the guy. I didn't kill the guy, he did.
We then tried to up our game a little bit and said, okay, so your phone is gonna show that you only went on that deck.
It's gonna show when you were down at the marina, how many times, what times of the day.
His demeanor immediately changed.
We wanted to try to rob him, knew we had money on the boat.
What happens next?
We entered the boat and
Where's Fred?
he's sleeping. Rich blasted him just after he woke up a little bit. He hit him like 5 times, blasted blood everywhere. And I was just holding him down and kind of grabbing his neck. An innocent old man is dead.
So we were able to take the cell phone records, and in doing so, we could find out, they came and went from the arena, I think maybe 12 times or so over the next 3 or 4 days. And we were able to key in and then corroborate, yep, the cell phone says they're there, the video has them there, the Google location history has them there, and really put all those 3 together. We also got a search warrant from Google that included Google Voice search history.
Does bleach kill everything, including skin cells?
That was the case breaker right there, for sure.
During the interrogation, one of the suspects said Captain Freddie was strangled
I was just holding him down and kind of grabbing his neck.
and the hyoid bone, which is the delicate bone in the neck, is fractured. So I'm calling it violence with multiple injuries, and the manner is homicide.
We determined that homicide charges were gonna be filed on both suspects.
I'm so stupid.
Troy Gundaway was charged with second-degree murder, which he pled to that case. He was sentenced to serve 55 years.
Do you admit your guilt to this charge?
Yes.
And he was then used as a witness for the first-degree murder charge against Richard Barabal.
I didn't know that he was dead on the boat.
He held firm in the fact that he was not guilty. You could tell he wasn't remorseful. On June 30th, 2017, Richard Barabal was sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years for his crimes.